So today I am installing a Fluidampr crank pulley on my 2018 Golf GTI with the CXCV engine code. You can see this is the new pulley here, the Fluidampr, and beside it is the Old Pulley. This is a silicone filled pulley, so it's supposed to make revving a little bit quicker, protect the crank a bit, and cut down on noise. And to install this, the only thing you really need is this funny little crank or pulley holder tool and a new bolt, which you can buy from the dealer. So here I am jacking up the car. Again, really love these jacks with little safety pin. They're really a lot more sturdy than my old jacks. So they make jobs like this where you're kind of cranking on things and you have to get all the way under the car a bit nicer. You have to take off the body panels to get access to the crank pulley. This is super easy, just a bunch of T25 screws. So with the car jacked up, this only took me about a minute or two. So I'm just cleaning up here. A lot of dirt came out after taking those trays off. So here's the old crank pulley. You can see it's marked with paint because it's a torque to yield bolt. And here is the little holder tool. I'm testing it out, making sure it actually fits before I take this off. I got an Amazon one. I almost bought the real one, but you have to have the car jacked up really high to be able to use that, so the Amazon ones are actually a little bit better. So now that I know the tool fits, I'm just taking off the belt from the accessory system. Because what this really does is it's a pulley bolted to the end of your crankshaft that is hooked up to the belt, which delivers power to the accessory system, but it's also bolted up to your crankshaft, which delivers power to the rest of the drivetrain. So it's one way of affecting the characteristics of how the car revs, through the weight of it and how it's balanced and how it kind of like picks up momentum. So whether or not this was worth the $500, that I'm not quite sure, but in theory you can make a bit of power with a different pulley and also reduce harshness on a 4-cylinder. So you can clearly see this is the old pulley here, and there are actually timing marks on the pulley as well. Some people say you have to pay attention to them. I found one video saying you have to pay attention, but you don't really have to. You can't mess up the timing when you're doing this, but it is nice to have it lined up so you know how much it's actually moved by. So you can see this is what that mark is supposed to line up with, which I believe is top dead center. But again, luckily, since this is a timing chain driven car, it doesn't really matter what it's lined up with because there's teeth and that keep it in place when you put the new pulley on. But you can see here I'm just lining it up, and I know I kind of backed it off maybe a degree. You shouldn't do that. I mean, a degree doesn't matter, but if you're doing it, you should really avoid backing this pulley up. So now that that's lined up, that way I know how much it's moved. I secured the pulley itself in place, and I got a really big ratchet on to try and loosen the bolt up. So I actually just levered this kind of on this control arm with my really big ratchet, and then I used the breaker bar to break the crank pulley bolt itself loose. This took a lot of work because I hadn't jacked the car up all the way, so just getting that leverage on your back is kind of tough, but if you're doing this on a lift or if you jack the car up higher, it just gets progressively easier. Just again, it all depends on what you're comfortable with. So I didn't feel myself cracking that bolt. It was pretty hard, but here I am taking this one out. So now that it's loose, I don't need to hold this in place anymore. I will say while doing this I was pretty nervous about the timing just because I watched one other video that mentioned it, and on my old 2-liter Jetta when I did the timing belt I was about 2 teeth off and the valves hit the pistons. The car still ran after, but I was a bit nervous doing this. Timing's always a little bit scary to me. So the bolt out. Here I am about to remove the pulley itself, which is just being held on by friction right now. And I'm also just marking where the pulley itself's little marking was lined up with, because it did shift a bit from that mark after I removed it, so I just wanted to know if it lined up with the old one, again for the purposes of a sanity check. So there's the old one, there's the teeth on it. You can see it doesn't seem like a lot of oil was leaking, but it is kind of dirty behind there. There is like a little bearing. Apparently you can replace this seal. I guess it's not a bearing, but it's a seal, but I wouldn't do that unless it's really leaking, which it doesn't seem to be. And again, you can see that big tooth. It lines up with that depression, that triangle shaped depression on the bottom. So again, it's really hard to mess this up and have it out of time when you do this, which is why the people that are scared of timing are scared of nothing. One thing with the new bolt is I did put a little bit of oil on the O-ring. This bolt does have an O-ring to seal the oil out. I guess it's fairly evident after seeing what the opening looks like. So yeah, I put some oil on that O-ring to prime it. It's always a good job. And I put this funny green oil that I had since I had a bit of extra in a small bottle. But yeah, again, this also lines up with one of the holes. So if you kind of want to visualize where that big triangular main tooth, I guess, or the alignment tooth is, you can look at one of the holes on the Fluidampr pulley, which is actually really useful. You can see here I'm kind of shaking because I'm nervous again after that experience with my old Jetta. Just anything timing related, I want to check 20 times, especially on this car. I love this car quite a bit. I bought it new, so I really don't want to have to throw a used engine in it. But yeah, felt pretty confident, had it lined up. And you could kind of see too that you can really tell if it's not lined up, like it's kind of side to side. It's subtle, but you know, if you understand how this is mounted, then that won't happen. So here it is with the bolt in, snugged down. You can see here that's the difference between where it started and where it ended up after loosening the bolt on the original pulley. So here I am using a torque wrench. I believe I torqued it down to like 111 foot-pounds. I was going by the spec from EKTA. This was pretty hard to tighten it down all the way, but I basically just levered it against the control arm again and used my big torque wrench to do it. But the torque spec on this, it's a torque to yield, so you also have to mark it. So you can see here I am marking it so I can get that extra 90 degrees. I think I only did it 80 degrees for this, but I'm sure it's fine. It was hard to visualize at that angle, and I also didn't want to over tighten it, so hit it with the paint pen. Kind of visualize, you know, what does this actually line up with, and went at it with the breaker bar to try and tighten this up. Again, because I was using the breaker bar, it was kind of hard to tell if I had the full 90 degrees. But based on this, I was, you know, within 5 or 10 degrees for sure, which is pretty good. Now I start it up, and it runs. This was a huge moment for me because, like I said, I was scared of blowing the car up. But it runs, and I have it on with my IS38, which I installed after this video was filmed. And I'm pretty happy with the pulley. Like, it doesn't make a huge difference, but the car definitely runs a bit smoother, and with the engine mounts I noticed the harshness quite a bit less. So I'm happy enough with it. I don't know if it was worth 500 bucks, but you can hear here I am running it with the Pop Tune Unitronic Stage 2 with my IS-20, my old turbo, and it runs good. You can see how the revs kind of pick up. So yeah, thanks for watching my video, and comment if you have any questions.